Well, hi everybody. Welcome to CSS210 Physical Security. I'm Dr. Brian Wisniewski, and I'll be your instructor for the next 15 weeks. I hope everybody had a good and relaxing break, as much as we could make it relaxing in current circumstance. Let's jump right in and talk a little bit about the course. This week we're going to kind of just do a brief introduction and overview, and you've got a couple of things to deliver this week, but it's fairly light. But let's jump right in. So one thing I want to get out of the way, normally in this course we have a number of cybersecurity majors, not as many as I have in the security management course that I teach, but we have a number of them. And I really want to ask the question, because cybersecurity gets so much attention these days, as it should, but what is really more important to you, cybersecurity or physical security? Let's take a look at a couple of scenarios here. And here's what I want you to think about. If something bad had to happen to someone you love, you couldn't prevent it, right? Something bad's going to happen, and you get to pick the bad. Which of the following would you prefer? An identity theft resulting from the loss of a credit card number. Pretty bad. Somebody could really spend you up that way, right? Hurt them financially. The theft of their cell phone, and that has all of our info on it. We all live on our phones these days, right? It's got everything. Someone breaking into their room or their apartment while they were home, or being at work when an active shooter comes into the workplace. If you had to pick one of those things to happen, which one or two would you pick? Now I'm thinking, as bad as those first two were, the theft of your cell phone and the theft of your identity, right, through a credit card theft, are pretty bad. But if you were home alone and someone broke into your home to do you harm, I think you'd be pretty upset. If you were in a job in the mall somewhere and someone came in and started shooting in your store, I would think that you would gladly give up your cell phone to stop that from happening, especially if you were the one in the way of that bullet, right? If we look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs, which I'm sure all of you have seen, safety and security falls next to the base of this thing, right? Very important to us. Our safety and security, our health, our employment, property, family, social stability. But if someone is going to potentially take your life or do you physical harm, they could stop you from breathing. They could stop you from eating if they knock all your teeth out, right? They could make things, your physiological needs, they could affect this through poor physical security. If you weren't prepared for something, then the psychological needs really come into play. Whereas with a cybersecurity event, it mostly falls into here, your employment, your health, right? Social stability, but also things like relationships, your sense of connection, right? Respect from others and confidence. They could ruin your reputation, right? It really falls, the cybersecurity falls in here, and it is my belief that physical security falls in here. And the closer to the base, the more important it is as a base need for you. Most people just hate to be harmed at all. It doesn't matter if it's a harm to our reputation, harm financially, or harm to us physically. We don't like to be harmed. It's a negative thing. But Maslow's hierarchy of needs, even though it puts safety and security together as the second most important human need, not being physically secure can seriously affect your physiological needs, which are the base of that triangle, the most important things to a human being, and it could potentially stop you from breathing. So, as much as cybersecurity is something that is in the forefront of everybody's mind these days, we tend to stop thinking about our physical security. We almost think it's being handled by somebody, and in many cases, it's not. So if you think about what you're going to study, it is hugely important for the basic human need. It falls in there technically with breathing and food and water and sleep. So what really is physical security? So here are three statements that kind of put it in perspective, in my opinion. It's the means by which we influence the environment to protect people, products, resources, and reputation. It's about protecting. We're protecting our person and our interests through a variety of physical, electronic, and procedural measures in a concerted and integrated way. We use physical barriers, things like doors and locks and other things. We use electronics in physical security, camera systems, known as video surveillance systems, and we'll get you away from calling it CCTV before the semester's out, if it kills me. Procedures, signage, rules and regulations. Those are the things we put together to protect our person and our interests. We also use the natural environment, man-made devices, and behaviors to deter, delay, detect, deny, and defend our interests. And we really want to hit all five of those if we can. through different measures. Some are better at others. And we'll go into this a bit more, but just to give you an idea, a fence can deter you, right? You'd have to climb it, so it would slow you down. It may also delay you, but it won't detect you unless there's a camera or an alarm on the fence. It can't really deny you because most people can climb a fence, but a locked heavy steel door might deny you. Sure, you could blow it open with some TNT, but I think you get the picture that denial is based on your ability to do something quickly and not be stopped. And then we defend. We use guards and police response and other methods to defend our interests. So basically what we're doing is we're protecting people, products, resources, and reputation through an integrated set of methods using physical, electronic, procedural measures so that we can deter, delay, detect, deny, and defend our interests. Now, I don't expect you to remember all that because we're going to go over it again, but I think I put it in perspective for you. Now, how are we going to study this? Well, there'll be lectures, there'll be reading, you'll do some writing, but most importantly, in this course, you will do design work. And I think that's the part of the course that you take away the most from, although the others are important. In order to design properly, you have to go through the other three. So let's just talk about those 4 ways we're going to study. So each week you will have a lecture, and it's going to last around 45 minutes. Some go a little bit longer, seldom do they go less. I have never had one go over an hour. But if you think about it, if you went to a class 2 days a week for an hour, you would have 2 hours of lecture. You'll get one from me. I think that's enough because you'll be doing other stuff. I record them on D2L, but I also publish them to YouTube. The reason I do that is at the beginning of the week, if you copy the address, they are protected addresses, but if you copy the address and put it into YouTube, it can take you so you can watch it on a device. Many of you work jobs and you want that portability where you don't have to. D2L is kind of hard to get into on a cell phone. If you've ever tried it, you can do it, but it's tough. But if you have the address, you can go to YouTube, and it's a pretty good format for watching on a tablet or a phone. If you're at work and you're bored, please don't do it while you're driving, but I just think that works out pretty well. So you can watch it on D2L, or you can just go right to YouTube directly with the address and do it. And then I provide the PowerPoint slides as a file. I strongly suggest you print those. Don't have to do it for this one, obviously. This is an introduction, but in future lessons, if you would print those out and use them during the lecture to take notes right on those slides, then at the end you'll have a very nice reference document for later work in the course and perhaps outside of the course. But it'll also make quizzes and discussions and everything much, much easier if you have the discussions printed out. There's usually about 18 pages, but you don't have to print them all. You can print 4 per page or 6 per page probably and still have plenty of room for note taking. So that's I provide that as a file because it's pretty hard to print from a video. So you'll see the exact same thing you're going to see on the video printed out in a non-narrated set of slides. That's in every lesson. And I would not try to use those in place of listening to the lecture because I will say some things that aren't necessarily on the slides. That's why you want them for note taking. But other students have found that they work pretty well that way. So we're going to jump around a bit with the text. There's just an order that I like to teach things because I think it falls into line as you learn different things. There's a lot of discussion in this course about security technologies, and I think that is something that is missing from other programs. I will tell you that there are a number of security, corporate security type majors out there, mostly rather large schools. And I have looked at every single one of them, and only one of them had a course designed like this one where we talk a lot about security technology. That was a course at Tulane University, and that's in their graduate program, not in their undergrad. Students have told me that this course is one that they've discussed in job interviews, and it's gotten some play. So because of the exposure to technology. The downside is that technology changes every day, and every day I get contacted by vendors to look at their new technology, be it weapons detection or drones or something, some new type of camera with artificial intelligence that can tell me all kinds of things about the people who walk in front of it. A book can't possibly catch up with that. So I'll provide other reading, but the book has a really good basis, and I like this textbook because it has a good basis for physical security study. You'll need to read the book and the other stuff to pass the quizzes. there'll be questions on the quizzes that come directly from the reading, and you'll need to read them. You won't get them in the context if you try to skim them. The reading's not hard, and it's not really time consuming. Most of the reading I give in this course you could probably do in 20 minutes. It's worth the 20 minutes. As they say in the commercials, just do it, because by the time you try to work around the reading, and I know students sometimes say, well, I don't like to do the reading, that's the part I don't like. By the time you try to work around it, go to a quiz, have to go and scan and try to find the right answer and then read it over again, everything, you put more time in. So if you just do the reading, I think you'll be better off. There'll be some writing. These are discussions, and discussions are two-way. So your responses to others are important as an initial post that you make. If there's a discussion assigned, and there's not as many of them in this course as there are in other courses I teach, but there are some, your initial post will always be due Wednesday at midnight. The course always opens on Monday. The initial post, if it's a discussion, will be due Wednesday at midnight. This allows time for others to read your post and make comments on it before it's finally due on Sunday at midnight, which is when I close out each week of the course. So other than the final, which will require some modification time because grades have to be in at a certain time, if there's a discussion, the initial post is due Wednesday at midnight. It'll be in the calendar. And then everything else will be done. Your responses and any other work that you have due for that week will be due Sunday at midnight. I know some of you like just to work on school stuff Monday through Friday, and you have the prerogative to do that. If you don't want to work on stuff on the weekend and you get everything done by Friday, power to you, that's great. Others like to work on the weekend because they have a job or they have other commitments during the week, and that's when they have the time to do it. That's great too. There's not a lot of discussions. I engage in them rather frequently, so please always remember you got to get that first one in if it's a discussion, and I'll remind you each time, but Wednesday at midnight is when the first one will be due. And finally, a big part of this course is the design. So you're going to be a security manager, a physical security manager at that, and I'm going to be your boss. That's how we're going to work with each other in this course for the most part. Okay, you're going to create a full facility physical security design in 15 weeks. We're going to go over all the elements that go in. You're going to add them to your design, and then you're going to move things around. Consider where alarms and camera systems might work together in concert, where access control points, things like automated card readers, like many of you have in the dorms, but there's a lot of different types out there, go, and where just a standard key lock might go. There's a lot of things to think about, okay? But over 15 weeks, we're going to build a design for an actual facility. The only way to learn this stuff is to do it, and you're going to do it. And in the end, you're going to understand that you can't have everything you want. I've had students in previous courses turn in their initial design, and for a basic warehouse, they had about 100 cameras on it, and that's great. But I gave them a budget later and said, you have to spend X amount per camera to put them in. Here is an actual cost, and we will use an actual catalog from a camera manufacturer, for instance, and from an access control system and from locks and everything else, we use actual pricing and an estimated price based on the region in Pittsburgh, where you are, of how much it costs to have these things installed per item. And you'll be given a budget, and that's where you have to start to say, okay, I need a trade-off. I can't put 100 cameras in here because then I can't put any locks on the door. If I put cameras and if I put alarms on everything that moves, on every drawer and door, I won't have any money for cameras, and therefore I can't see what happens when an alarm goes off. There's a balance, and so you're going to need to justify it, and you're going to work as a team toward the end. Once you've been doing your design by yourself, then your team will get together and start to come up with a common design. So a big question people have is, how am I going to know what to do? This all sounds complicated. No, it's not. It's easy. You do the weekly work, and I'll help you, and we can't miss. I will explain everything you need to know from week to week, and you apply that, and you will see by the end of this 15 weeks, you know a lot more about protecting a building, protecting people, protecting resources and products and reputation than you knew before you came in the door. Every week, except for one, and even that one we start to really go over into it, we're going to talk about how you physically protect people, property, resources, and reputation. And how are we going to do that? Well, we're going to study lots and lots of stuff. Where do we start, you ask? Well, we start at the beginning. We're going to talk about physical security basics, what it actually means. What are the different elements of it? What are we trying to do? What's our purpose? What's our goal when we talk about physically securing someplace? We're going to talk about procedural security. People don't think about procedures as a way to physically protect people. If you can influence people's behavior through rules, signage, other ways of communicating that with them, to have them do things a certain way, to have them all enter a certain way into a building perhaps, then you're going to be way ahead on physically protecting that building. We're going to talk about barriers. We're going to talk about lights. We're going to talk about perimeters. There are perimeter protection systems that we'll talk about just briefly because I'm not a big fan of them, and there's not a lot of them in use other than supermax prisons and nuclear facilities, no matter what anybody tells you. But barriers, things as simple as very large concrete planters that you see in front of your county courthouse, have a purpose, have a physical security purpose. They're not there just for the flowers. And you'll start to look at things a different way. We'll talk about locks, and that is something that most people in physical security don't know a lot about. And it's real simple. Every time you reach out to open a door and grab that doorknob, there's some type of passage device or lock device on that. You're going to learn to tell the difference between them and understand why a particular lock goes on a particular door. And there's a scheme that you use to do that. We're going to talk about automated access control, badge readers, retina scans, fingerprint readers, all different types of ways to get people in and out of places and to have a history of when and where they went in and to keep the bad guys out. We're going to talk about intrusion detection, otherwise known as alarm systems, how to tell when someone has breached your security perimeter that you've set up. We're going to talk about video surveillance systems. Don't call them CCTV. Get out of that habit because closed circuit TV means that they're all wired into a single system. All of today's systems run on big networks so you can watch the cameras anywhere. I can sit in my home today, and right now I could take out my iPhone and I can pop up a lobby in China and watch the cameras there at one of my facilities. That's not a closed circuit. That's a network system. It's a video surveillance system. And biodigital devices, there are devices, like I said, retina scans, iris scans, fingerprint readers, hand geometry readers, voice print readers. There is even one that I read about just recently that uses a thumbprint of your particular body odor. Everyone has a certain smell. There are systems that aren't even biodigital, but they're just geofenced, right? So if you're within a particular range of a certain thing, it's not just Bluetooth, it's just saying you're within that range. So there's a lot of really slick devices we can talk about. But we're going to talk about all of these things, and you're going to incorporate them into a design as you learn about them. So every course has to have some form of assessment. How do you prove that you learned what you say you learned? And we're going to do that in a number of ways. So there'll be quizzes. They're usually 10 questions, not always, but usually 10. There's 5 on the syllabus quiz this week that's due. They're not timed. For those of you who, see that timer and say, okay, you've got a half hour to complete this. This isn't the SAT. For a 10-question quiz, I would imagine most of you will take less than 15, 20 minutes. But if it takes you 2 hours, who cares? Certainly not me. They're open book and they're open notes because guess what? I'm not going to come to your house and stand over your shoulder while you do this. Okay? They're not always easy, but it's important that you work on these yourself. Okay? There'll be discussions, and discussions really are an essay format. Please don't give me one big blob of words, right? You got to use paragraphs, proper spelling, proper grammar, write it in Word, cut and paste it, and then clean it up in D2L. That's the right way to do a discussion. And in many cases, if there's a discussion, I will ask you to converse with others on a particular subject or a particular way to agree or disagree with what they say. Most students were not fond of the responses on discussions. Much of that came from students who just wanted to get them done. Not so sure that that's a good reason not to have discussions, but there will be less discussions in this course than in others. The design work is the big one. And basically, you're going to print out floor plans that I give you and drawings that I give you, and you're going to mark them up. Color pencils work best. You can use highlighters. You're going to need different colors. You can use highlighters, but you can't erase a highlighter, right? So I would avoid them. I would go with color pencils where you can erase them. And you will need to have access to a scanner. I have in the past accepted photographs of drawings, but I will tell you that they are so hard to read because of shadows and poor lighting. I have to make assumptions, and my assumption is always that you got it right, and that may not be the case. So I'm really trying to avoid any photos if we can help it. If you don't have access at all to a scanner, if you have a printer, you have a scanner these days because they're multifunction devices. But if you don't have access to one, please let me know that in a private message when you get a chance so we can try to work something out. But I will need you to submit your drawings more often, and I will need certain lighting and certain sizes if you're going to use photographs. There'll be presentations. So one of the things that toward the end of the semester, you will have a peer review of your drawing. You will meet with several other students in the class. You guys as teams will set when you do that. Because there can't be, and there shouldn't be, mandatory meeting times set by the instructor in this course, I'm not going to tell you that you can't have your 5-person team get together at 6 a.m. or 6 p.m. or whenever you want to. I will just need to know from your team leader, who you will choose, when the team is going to meet via Zoom to go over the drawings that you've done, to discuss them amongst yourselves, and to come up with one concerted drawing for your team. That is kind of how they work in the real world, right? If you have a security team working on things, you get together. And I don't care in the end whether you say, I'm going to use this person's lighting scheme and lock scheme, but this person's camera scheme. In the end, you will present to me your final designs and budgets via Zoom, again, at a time on Zoom that is acceptable to all the team members. They'll be relatively small teams. And if one person just can't make it at a certain time that's on that team, I will assign them to another team, or they will do it for me, and I can set the meeting for 3 a.m. So there'll always be a time when we'll be able to get together, right? And I will let you set the time. In the end, there's also a reflection paper. What was good and what was not so good about the course is what I ask. And I do that at the end of every course I teach. So if you have me for other courses, you can darn well count on the fact that you'll do a reflection paper. There's a certain format for it. It's due on finals week, but I will not release the format, the actual questions I want you to answer in that paper until the week before. So you really can't do it before finals week, but you'll have plenty of time to do that. So that's how we'll assess what you've done and whether you've learned. So everybody has likes and dislikes, and I'd like to get those out of the way because to learn something that makes your instructor angry in week 5 is really a bummer. So let's get certain things out of the way. I like interacting with you. You can text me, and that is a great way to get a hold of me, and we'll talk about that. Email, phone calls. Look, I don't mind talking to people. I like talking to students, and students sometimes just feel like they shouldn't call me. If you worked for me, remember, you're going to be the physical security manager, and I'm your boss. At some point, you need to talk to your boss about things, things that are going good, things that are not going good, things that may need some clarification. That's the type of interaction we're going to have this semester, okay? I do like people who understand the rules, which means read the syllabus, right? It's 10 pages, and that's kind of boring, but it'll really take you 10 minutes to read it. It's not that difficult. You need to know the rules. And I really like honesty. You have to do your own work. If I find that you are turning in work done by others, and by the way, all discussions, all papers, everything goes through a reader that compares it to college work turned in at multiple colleges and universities, including this one, in previous semesters and current semesters for plagiarism. I use that. I use it a lot. Please do your own work. Don't get caught because it just gets ugly, and then it's just not a pretty scene. So do your own work. It's not that hard. Dislike, late work. I understand that you have challenges and things that you need to do, and everybody has a personal life and things sometimes don't go right. But you need to plan. You are adults now. And when I'm constantly working on people's late work and chasing people down to turn things in, it detracts me from getting my work done. And one of my goals this semester, because students have told me that I don't grade very quickly, and I don't. Although I will say last semester was a little challenging because my company is working on some pretty important vaccines at the moment. And I'm part of that distribution, security, and other things. Still, one of my goals, personal goals, is to turn things around quicker. I can't do that if I'm constantly chasing people down saying, thing was due on Sunday. I got nothing from this person for the last 2 weeks. Now I have to go find you. And I will find you. You can't hide. Okay, but I don't like late work, and I'm not going to accept it this term. So unless you have documented evidence to tell me why something could not be turned in, and the fact that you got called into work is not a reason because you took the job, right? I'm talking about a medical emergency, a family emergency that can be documented that I can see. Please don't ask for extensions. Please don't ask for to turn in late work. And I don't like slackers, okay? We're simulating a work environment in this class. We truly are. With this design project and you working as part of a team later in the semester especially, you can't slack. If you do, you're letting your classmates down. Nobody likes working with lazy people. You might say, it doesn't bother me. You know, people are that way and we can all just have a great time. Well, it doesn't work that way in the real world. Don't be a slacker. Participate on your team. Those are my likes and dislikes. I'm sure you have some, and I'd love to hear about them. And hopefully, if I strike a chord on one of your dislikes, let me know. More than willing to adjust my fire as well. So, contacting me, since I said it's fine to contact me, know that I work a regular job, at least 40, most likely 50 hours a week. That's normally during the normal business day and normally Monday through Friday, but you know, what's normal? I many times have calls very, very early in the morning with Asia and or with Europe. And so, and late at night with certain parts of Asia because we're got a 12-hour time difference, right? So I work various hours sometimes, but I set limits for myself. You get burned out, that helps nobody, right? You can't do anything when you're totally burnt out on something. So I'm not going to let that happen to me. I'm working a full-time job and teaching at Slippery Rock 2 courses. I have to adjust myself so that I don't work 24/7. But the best times to get my attention, office hours. Office hours are listed in the syllabus and they are dedicated to you. So by all means, you let me know if you want to meet during office hours. You'll need to call me because I don't have an office. You can't come just knock at the door. But if you text me and say, I'd like to meet, I will let you know whether somebody is in line ahead of you or we can set an appointment, but we will meet. Between 6 p.m. and 9 p.m. most days, I'm relatively available. I have my cell phone next to me as I watch TV or read or do whatever I'm going to do that day. And you can contact me those days. And from noon till about 12:45, I take a walk and you can contact me then. Don't let any of those times, though, stop you from contacting me. Just know I may not answer right away if you do it during other times. So with all that, what do you need to do this week to be successful? View the lecture. And if you've gotten this far, you're just about done. There's only like 2 more slides here. We got about 3 more minutes to go. So you check that box. Thank you. Read the syllabus. It's dry. It's boring. I know. Suck it up. Read it because you need to understand the rules. Because if you ask me a question that's in that syllabus, I will tell you go back and look at it there and force your hand on it. Okay, so just read it up front. Take the syllabus quiz. Easiest quiz you're going to take in this course. Take it before the end of the week. Do the introduction. Use the format I gave in this discussion board. It asks specific questions that I would like to have you answer. I know many of you know each other. I don't know a lot of people in this course because it's a 200 level course. So for some of you, this is the first time I've met you. Others I've had in other courses. But I ask that you write a clean essay with paragraphs, proper spelling and grammar as much as you can so I can understand your thought process, how you work, a little bit about you, and what your writing is. It's important to me to understand those things as we go forward. Then during the week, look for some colored pencils, dig down into the desk drawer and, in the junk drawer in your kitchen, because we all have one of those, right? Look for some colored pencils. You're going to need about 8 different colors. Last year when I taught this course, I sent a box from Amazon of, 200 or 300 different colored pencils to the school and just told students to go pick them up in the security studies office, but nobody's going to be there. So you're going to be responsible for getting some of your own. You could use highlighters if you must, but again, you're going to be making a lot of copies of these floor plans if you do that, because you'll make mistakes. I would say use something that's erasable. And then a color scanner. Please, if you have one, have available a color scanner. I really would encourage you to please use that for your submittals to me with your designs so that I can read them. If you must do photographs, you need to check with me now and tell me that there's no way you're going to have a color scanner or have access to one so we can set some parameters about what I'll accept. Okay? Just to let you know, this course is my favorite course to teach. I really enjoy teaching this course because we're really kind of getting down into the mud, right? We're actually going to do design work. You're going to actually learn about some of the stuff that you will have hands-on if you go into Homeland or corporate security or even criminal justice. I highly recommend criminal justice students take a course like this because when you are a cop and you go into a robbery scene, you'll understand how the alarms and the camera systems and the access and the locks and all those things work. It will make you a better investigator if you understand how those things work. So if you're a CJ major and you're taking the course, don't think that this is something that you can just take and forget, because it will make you a much better police officer, especially in just going in and advising merchants about security of their business. You'll be able to look at a lock and tell them, this is the type of lock that you really want to have here, or this is the place you want to put your camera, because you'll understand the way to design a system. Several alumni have contacted me and said they've referenced this course in their job interviews, and of those who have done that, they've gotten the jobs. That makes me pretty happy. Tells me I'm doing stuff the right way. But frankly, when you go in to talk to a security manager, this is one of those courses in the end where you can talk shop. You can talk about things that they do every day. When you go into a job interview and you try to just do all theory, I think you fail. You don't really fail, and many times you'll get the job, right? But if you can mention something that you know about that they do, you can strike that conversation. So I really think that this is a good course for that. It gives you an end product. You can put it in a portfolio. Take it with you to interviews when you go, right? Yes, I've done this before, and this is an example of my work. It exposes you to some reality, okay, and how you need to react to change. Because I'm going to start throwing some budgets at you at some point. You're going to say, "Oh, I overspent. I need to make some adjustments." So it's going to get real. And I think that you'll really enjoy that part of the course if you really get into it. So now, get to work, because it's a new semester and you're all revved up and ready to go. Don't let that momentum cease. Keep it going right straight through till the end of the semester, because that's the way to finish strong. Have a great week. I will see you in the discussion room, because I will make some comments. Please answer if I have questions about your background or some of the things you listed, so that we can get to know each other a little bit. Have a great week. I will see you on campus.